Hi, and welcome to the S.J. Childs Show. I'm your host, S.J. Childs. S.J. Childs Show brings value to families through education, resources, and lots of laughs. You can find us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all of your favorite podcast platforms. You can also find our special children's books at sjchilds.org. Thank you for all of those who have hosted me on your podcasts. Enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to the S.J. Childs Show. I'm your host, S.J. Childs, and today I have a very special guest, Anthony Williams. Anthony is the host of the Independent Mouth podcast. He is also an author. And I had your book written down over here, but it's on another piece of paper now. So you'll have to give us the lowdown on all of that good stuff. We're so happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we just had fun. We just had a lot of fun. We did a great discussion on the Independent Mouth, and yeah, it's a show. If you like diversity, if you like to be able to speak your mind, talk about things, and work together to educate, to bring people together and to talk about the hard stuff, to try and find solutions for it. That's exactly what the Independent Mouth is all about.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're done listening to this, jump on over to the Independent Mouth podcast and check out our show. It'll be out in a few weeks, and his other amazing shows as well. Tell us a little bit about what got you started into the podcast world.
All right. Everyone's crazy if they get into the podcast world now, so it's fine. No, I authored a book. It's called On Borrowed Time: The Reinvention of a Lost Soul. And it's everywhere, right? It's on Amazon. It's everywhere. You can go to my website, theindependentmouth.com. You could purchase the book directly through my publishing, or you can go to Amazon. However you feel that day, you could do that. But the podcast really started because my father pushed me to do the podcast. Like, he had always known I wanted to do, radio or sports reporting, like things like that. Like I'm such a big sports person. So I always liked that. Wrestling fan, right? So those on air personalities, UFC fan, big fan of like Joe Rogan, and not like idolized that way. It's just, I just dig that, right? Like, be able to do that and give your thoughts and live a life and do, like, that's, to me, was like total.
No, you remind me of him. Definitely. I would say that would be the closest person you remind me of, for sure.
Thank you very much. I get that a lot, and I don't know how to take it, right? Because now people are like, you sound like him. I'm like, I don't want to sound like Joe Rogan, right? Like, I want to be like it in a sense, but I don't want to sound exactly like him.
Me too.
But the Joe Rogan thing, man, just the way he did it with not caring and just continuing to move forward was what I always wanted, because when people listen to his show, then they got an answer.
Yeah.
And that's always what I wanted to do. My father was pushing me to do that. I purchased the podcast platform on the 17th of March. It was like the day of when everybody was going nuts and saying that we're going into a pandemic, right? Like, the world was falling, the sky was falling, the world was ending on the 17th of March. And my father passed away on the 18th.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
It was like, here's a sign, right?
Wow.
Like, I remember I was on the plane, because I immediately went, as soon as I heard, the next day, I immediately hopped on a plane. I went by myself. My wife and 2 children stay here. I went to New York with my mother and my sisters and family. And I remember saying on the plane, I'm like, you didn't have to take him for me to do this, if that's the case, right? Like, I don't need that big of a kick in the ass, right? I wanted him, right, to do this. So it was really an awakening to do it. And I'm not saying that, like, oh, I only do this for him. You know what he gave me? He gave me the ability. Am I allowed to curse?
Please, we can.
He gave me the ability to have zero fucks.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I can put it, which is, I've been given less than 48 hours to live. I had sicknesses all through childhood. I've grown up with a heart issue. I have a mechanical heart valve now. I'm on Coumadin for the rest of my life, right?
Oh,
blood
thinners.
thinners.
Yes.
So look, I faced some stuff. What are you going to tell me that's going to hurt my feelings?
Yeah.
Nothing. Right. And that's what he reinforced into me, was that, why do you care? Go do what you want to do. He would always tell me, like, people like you, right? Like, and I've always dealt with this. Like, I've dealt with enough depression. I've dealt with the anxiety, which is why when we were on your podcast, I kept going through it, because I've dealt with these things my entire life. And it always stopped me at a point. And what happens is reaffirmance, the affirmation, the support from these people is what always pushed me through, whether it was a hockey career, whether it was going in real estate, whether it was writing the book. When I came out and wrote that book, and there was some stuff in that book, there was inappropriate touching at a young age, not from my family, from other people.
Yeah.
So I've gone through the sexual child abuse. I've gone through being sick. I've gone through the anxiety. I've gone through the depression. I've gone through the highs and the lows. I've gone with, like I said, being given less than 48 hours to then delivering my daughter on the side of the 15 freeway in California. Right.
Whoa.
So I've gone through drug addiction. I've gone through
Yeah.
rehab. I've gone through 3,000 miles away from being with anything that you know is family and starting a family. So you're not going to come at me in a way that I'm going to be scared.
Yeah.
Right. Like say
Yeah.
your piece. And that's what the independent mouth always was. So he gave me that ability to just say, screw you.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk what I talk about. And I'll just say it's worked out. So,
I love that.
you know, it is what it is.
I love that. I love that he supported you and pushed you and empowered you in that way. I think that that's so incredible.
Without telling me what to do.
Yeah.
That's the important. Like he did
Yeah.
not say you have to do this or you should be doing this. And I'm not going to talk to you if you don't do it and you're not doing it. But no, it was just, Anthony,
Yeah.
I support you. I think this would be great. And for him to say that was like,
That's how you
told me
parent,
I had.
right?
That's it.
That's how you parent right there. Yeah, I agree completely. I can't imagine in what directions I could have gone in with a little bit more push in my life in a few different directions. So, and I think that it's really come from now my spouse, who is kind of that way, who is always pushing and saying, no, you're amazing. You know, people are looking and they're noticing and they're seeing all of the incredible things you can do. But it's really hard to embody that and say, okay, that is true. You know, I can do this. I am this powerful being that can take over my own control of my own things. So yeah, and that's amazing. I'm so proud that he could do that for you and stuff. That's really neat.
Yeah, I think you know more than anybody is what the mind can do, especially when you enhance it, as opposed to set up roadblocks in front of the individual, right? So he was a truck driver. He always knew I wasn't going to be a truck driver. I think he knew that from a very young age. No matter how much I like it, no matter how well I can drive.
Yeah.
Right. I got his genes. It doesn't matter, but it just didn't do the same thing for me.
Yeah.
As it did for him. So he understood that. And you know what the funny thing is? It's like I struggle with these things with my kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I know better, right? Like I've gone through these things. Don't make this mistake. And it's like, what are you dummy? Stop it. Like
Let
they
them
have
make
to make
it.
a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, and so just try him. And it's a growth process. So what did all this teach? Like he was the old school Italian monster, right? It was just, you knew he was always funny. He was that guy. He was tough, right? He was gritty. You didn't mess with him.
Yeah.
And you knew if you messed with him, it was coming back around. And I just learned so much. If he could change, because the way he was at 30, the way he was at 40 was completely different that the way he was even the last 5 years before he had passed. So I watched that growth.
Yeah.
Right. I had the best relationship with him the last 10, 12 years after a lot of bad stuff. And I was away. Right. Like I wasn't next to them where I could go see them every weekend and the relationship flourished. Like, so I think the biggest thing for people out there is as long as both people are willing to have an open conversation, you can accomplish a lot.
So true.
And take all of your depositions out and just say, I just want to listen to this person. And that's what my father and I got to do, because I think what it did was it opened up. And the same thing with my mother, the same thing with my sisters. It was a growing experience over all of this. And they all know I do this show. And so, they all know, and never once do they come up and say, you shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Because we've lived it, right? Like this has helped us live saying what we've wanted to say and find solutions to the answers that maybe people are trying to find.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think that when we don't when we try to pretend we're somebody else, or we try to pretend that, you know, we have the city job that we fit into or whatever, we do ourselves and our own family disservices that way. So yeah, it's like being in a cocooned butterfly, right? And do you want to be locked in the cocoon and never come out as a transformed being? No, like I want to become a butterfly over and over and over again. Like I completely always want to transform myself into something new. But having that support, and having the language to be able to do that. And, you know, isn't it so important that when you go in to have these kind of discussions, you go in with the thought, okay, I'm going to listen without thinking. Because that's when you hear things for real, when you listen without thinking, when you're thinking about what's going to be my next sentence, what's going to be my next topic. You know, I do that with my guests. I don't go like, yeah, I listened to a little bit of your show this morning, but I literally had no idea, right? You could tell I'm completely clueless because it's not authentic for me if it's not authentic, right? It doesn't, my expression is different, my understanding things, my excitement level is different when it's all authentic. And so I think that, yeah, learning to hear and listen without thinking so that you can really just hear what the person is saying. Things seem to flow so much easily that way. I don't feel like I have to have a conversation written out or questions to, you know, some
well, no,
people
you're the medical professional. You're the medical professional. You know, for me, you know, when you're saying that, no, I don't want to, you know, there's certain things where you test prep, right?
Yeah.
But I think I think it's false for people to think that you always have to be that way.
Yeah.
And I think social media has done that. I think the media has done that. I think a lot of stuff. And that's why I've enjoyed doing this show, you know, The Independent Mouth, and I'm enjoying yours because it is organic. But that was the whole basis behind my show. Was I didn't want to just be a professional pontificator. I didn't want to have everything scripted. It's like it's always the same. And we're in 2021 where you notice, like, look at your major news stations, look at sports stations, look at everything. They're trimming down all of their on-air talent, right? And they're grabbing content from all these other places. So why are you going to be in a box, right? Like, and I've tried to say this to people and just saying, like, expand who you are and what you can do, because look what they're doing. Like, follow the money, right? Like, I don't have to follow medical. I have you for that. I'm going to follow the money. They're condensing all of this and pulling content from other places. So why, you got to ask yourself, why are they doing that? They're doing it because they want authentic. They want different. People don't want the same. And of course, you're going to have your same, you know, 2 people, 3 people at ESPN that will always be there, right? Because they draw those huge ratings. Or on your news nightly show, like, let's face it, it's really hard to plug somebody new in and have people like them no matter what you're doing. So now they're pulling content from all places, the reporters, this and that, you know, it's this from here and do this remotely from here. Things are changing. And I think that is the engagement aspect that they're trying to go back to, because here's what they found. When people find out that it's manufactured and they thought it was organic, they leave you.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so when you're watching ratings drop and plummet on channels because they have damaged that, and the people go, I got the power, and they pull the plug, and you're like, what happened to my ratings? Right. So that's it. Don't piss off the people. If you start out one way and you say, I'm going to be this way, but then in the middle of that, you say, hey guys, I want to educate you. I'm going to make this right turn, and I hope you guys follow me. And if you don't, I understand not everybody's going to make the turn, and be transparent. People like that more so than showing up to your show one day going, I thought she wrote, children's books. Oh, she hates all people who don't have autism. Like, how did we get here? Right? Like, this is not what happened here.
Yeah. No, that is so true, isn't it? And people just really, and not to mention, they only take pieces, right? They don't take the whole picture. They don't look at the whole picture. They probably aren't, woke enough, if I could be honest, to look at the whole picture.
You can't say that word. You know that. You can't say that word because that, look, you're in all sincerity, you are the medical professional. You understand how your brain chunks things.
Yeah.
And when you're trained for so long to only look at clickbait and not actually read the article, right? You're only trained so long to say, okay, we all know fear sells. We know emotions sell because that's what engagement is, right?
Yeah.
Maybe your fear of missing out or the emotional response, that impulse. We understand that takes place. That is all part of our lives. Why do you think salespeople are successful? They're not buying the product as much as they are buying you and
Yeah.
the impulse that you create in them to purchase the product.
Mhm.
Their sales 101, 102, 103, and mastery class. That is sales.
Yeah.
So when we look at that, you're always selling yourself, aren't you? Whether you're coming on my
So true.
podcast, I'm coming on yours, we're all doing that. So we all are salesmen. And what people have realized is that we are all salesmen and they're tired of it. So they just want to have natural conversations with people.
So true.
Because that makes them happy. It completes
Yeah.
that emotional response. And when we constantly keep pushing the button, like you said, are you woke? What, we can't talk about race because you're not woke enough, or we're two white people and we're not allowed to do that?
Yeah.
No, that's false.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't talk about autism because I'm not a doctor and you are, so only you have a voice on it. Well, let me just give you a different perspective. Wait, you can't do that either. And if we don't include politics while we're eating cereal, then we aren't part of the norm. That is false.
Amen. That is so true, right? Oh my gosh, that is so false. Yeah, no, I think that having these authentic conversations and being able to, not draw off these scripts and everything, yeah, it is the new what needs to be happening. And it is what people are more interested in finding out because they can't predict it, basically, and I guess you and I, as the storytellers, have to be really careful. What I'm learning as a newer, person in this field is that retelling the same stories, right? How many things can you retell the same stories? Like I'm learning, okay, I can't retell that story anymore. Like I've already edited so many videos and heard myself say that same sentence. Like that's out, that's gone. And they're part of who I am. And it feels like this story that I have to tell. Yet I don't want it to be repeated in every episode. So everyone's like, oh, here she goes again. Here's the story again.
Take the tips, take the tips from the game industry and take the tips from Hollywood. How many times are you going to get a Batman movie?
Yeah.
For God's
right,
sakes.
right?
Like, and Batman's my favorite character, right? But like the creativity's gone. What a lot of people don't realize is, and I use this, and you're free to take it, and all the listeners in the show, you want something that's going to help you in life? Here's the one sentence that will help, or the one phrase. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel and just buy a new tire. Right? Because when everybody thinks you have to reinvent the wheel, remember we had talked about this in the podcast with you, which was like, okay, I'm going to run a small business, or I'm going to do a podcast. And then once you say that, right, you have like 9 million emails of people like, go here for podcast and do this for podcast. Here you go for podcast. Right. So I think all that's crap.
Yeah.
There's certain mechanics that are going to work. Ready? What's a podcast? You can do a video, or you can just do audio. You speak into a microphone, you record it. You change the levels of that recording to make it sound the way that you want. And then what you do is you save it. From there, the podcast is over.
Yeah.
Okay. It is, the marketing is not part of the podcast. So now you have to learn how to market this thing.
Yeah.
Now you have to learn how to reach out to people and engage to get guests for your podcast, or talk to this person, or maybe you have a PR person. And let's just face it, all PR people are weird. Why? Because they want something from you. It's that simple. Okay. Yes. So to think that anybody is going to think like, oh my God, you got an amazing show. Yes, because you're going to get them something. It's that simple. Okay. Mm-hmm. With that being said, stop buying in to learn something new from everybody. Trust that you actually know the information. I knew nothing when I started The Independent Mouth. I started it by going on LinkedIn, and I said all these people that I would interact with my posts, and I'd say, can I interview you? Mm-hmm. Because I knew nothing. I didn't even is there an interview style that I have? I didn't know. Yeah. I asked friends during quarantine, you want to just hop on, we'll just chat, and just, we'll see what happens. Then people started to like it. And I'm like, wait a second. I got something here. Yeah. Okay. People like it. It's growing. Then the elections happened. And because I've always been the independent mouth, I took everything from the right and I took everything from the left. and I just attributed it to normal day life. I didn't follow what they would quote unquote conspiracy things from the right and
Yeah.
conspiracy things from the left, because they always want, remember we said, always want to put you in a box.
Yeah.
You have to fit here if you're not a person of power, and you can choose your own box. So I started breaking that.
Yeah.
And I just went down the middle. I took all the information and said, here's how it affects my life. And if this is true, here's how it affects my life. But remember, I'm not the end all be all source. So what I tell people all the time is, here's what I found. Go dig on your own.
Yeah.
You find a problem with it, come back to me, because I want to know if I did something wrong. I will confidently say, I don't get much of, oh, Anthony, you're wrong. I get a ton of, did you see this?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. A bunch of the did you see this are things that I would not say because they could not be confirmed. So that's why I did it. And that's why I did it for people, so that they would understand. And then we go back and forth real simple and say, can't confirm it because of this. Did you read this piece? I go through the stuff. I don't go clickbait and then go, that's the topic of my show.
Yeah.
No. Okay. And so everybody knows on your show, I have been contacted by so many people, underground wise, that want to get the information out there, want to get people back on a level playing field, and say, we all need to. So there might be some really interesting updates that come up down the line. That's a little teaser only for your show.
I love it.
That hasn't come out yet, but we're going to see where it takes us.
Yeah, that's great too. I think that that's that's what I'm growing, and I'm trying, when I grow up, I hope my podcast is, it's as saucy as yours. And I think that just learning how to engage with all these people, and, me being a guest on other people's podcasts, it was like a couple of people that said, Sarah, you're such a great guest. Like, you have to do this on your own. Like, I had no idea. I was like, me? What are you talking about? But it was that, encouragement from people that saw that, yeah, I love sharing information. I love having conversations with people. And when you're able to, when you have the like-minded individuals that you're able to have these great conversations with, those are what make really great shows. So, yeah.
I had to close the window. I apologize.
Oh, no, you're fine.
There were gardeners next door, and I could just tell how that's going to hop in there, where it sounds like, there's a bee in the microphone. No, let me just say this. I haven't been doing it. I've been doing this a year, right?
Yeah.
And for a good portion of that, I wasn't doing much. And when I hear people say, because I was trying to figure out who I was and how to do this and where I should go. So that's why I took a little break to kind of figure it out. When I hear people telling you like, oh, you need to do this 3 or 4 times a week, that's BS. When I hear people telling like new people who come on, like, oh God, if you disappear for a couple of days, you're going to lose all your fans. No. And here's the other thing. Stop worrying about whether or not you have 1 million likes.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you now, there's a bunch of people who listen that never hit like. That never hit any of it because they just know and they're afraid of getting spammed.
Yeah.
Well, guess what I do? I let you like it. You can join the mailings. I do a mailing like once a month, maybe once every 2 months. Why? Because those people actually listen and I talk to them through the show.
Yeah.
Why do I need to spam you as well? Right. And that's what I've created with mine. So like you hear all these marketing people here, like I get it. Guys, people want things done differently. So, if you're just getting started, you choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
You pick the days. I'm going to do it once a week and do your marketing to suffice. You doing a show once a week. Don't just start doing things because you think, oh, this works for that person. It's like you as a human. It starts from the inside and goes out. Guess what? If you're a crappy human inside, it's going to translate outside.
Certainly.
If you work on yourself internally to become a good person, like a flower that's going to blossom out to other people. Well, guess what? It's about your podcast the same way.
Yeah.
If you start off trying to make everybody happy and doing it at these times, you're going to be miserable. And it's going to show in your work. And guess what? That's going to affect the people who listen. So be you. Don't do what everybody else is telling you specifically to do, and just build it around what works for Sarah.
Oh, I love that. And I love that my husband always says we're our own bosses. Like we're the boss here. You know, we set the time, we set the schedule. We don't have to, air on a certain day of the week that somebody says is a better day than others. Like that's on us. And if we want to, like, I took all of last week off because I was so busy in April with Autism Awareness Month and educating so much, that nobody left when I took a week off. Nobody even knew, right? Because I still had content that was on there that was being listened to and everything was happening. So, yeah, definitely.
Be transparent.
Exactly.
Be transparent. Just tell your people, hey, I'm going away for a week. You want to listen to stuff? Go listen to stuff. If not, I'll see you when I get back.
Exactly.
And let's face it, the same way we used to treat this back in the 80s, 90s, right? Even early 2000s. If we're friends, we're going to be friends forever.
Yes.
And just because I don't talk to you today doesn't mean 3 months down the line we can't have a conversation. If that's the way it is, that's on you. Yeah. I'm not. That's not how I run my life, right? So if you don't want to listen in 3 months, I'm sorry. Maybe you'll come back. But I'm not losing sleep over it. I apologize, but I'm not losing sleep over it.
No, I love that. And I think that that's a really great attitude to have is because, you do this for yourself. You don't do this for and I think that that's a really big part of it too. When you realize like, I love doing this. I love connecting with people. How could I have ever met you in the world otherwise? We never would have ran into each other on the road or at a bar, something crazy like that.
Considering the fact I'm in California and you're in Utah, right?
Saying,
so
exactly.
That would be really difficult.
Yeah. And it's just incredible to be able to create this type of a meeting setting. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
I don't think, now it's the way that the engagement happens, right? Like I found this really funny. The lack of knowledge people had going into how to use like Zoom, right? Or even, with all the technology we've had, right? And we've put people on the moon, but you don't know how to have a digital conversation. I've been doing this with teams around the world for companies that I've worked with. I've been doing it for a long time. Like the fact that people don't know how to communicate or like, I'm not saying you need a microphone. I'm not saying you need a setup. What you need is you just need a computer to turn on.
Yeah.
Like you FaceTime and you're telling me you don't know how to have a Zoom call, right? Like it was weird, right? Like everyone just forgot technology existed and it was nuts. But like just to hear people and they're like, well, why are you doing that? Or, how do you do this? And I'm like, man, like you guys work for big companies and you don't know how to use this. It was like, and you're out there telling me I need to do this or wear a mask or this and that. It's like,
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Keep your in your own lane when you don't know what you're talking about in other people's. That's true. Let's pivot off this and go back to your book. I want to talk about your book and what some of the things. I mean, you told us a lot about what you went through and what the book is about. When did you write that? Like, what was your pivotal moment into getting that out?
I was working with a telecommunications company. Ended up that contract ended, and I just was like, I'm done with this stuff. Right, that contract ended because it was out of my control. It wasn't something I did. They didn't pay taxes the right way, and they lost their LOA from the Bank of America, right? So money was going out the window for them and they had to downsize in the company. Then I just threw up on paper. I'm like, I'm tired of this, man. I got all this stuff inside of me. People don't know about it. Part of it, people are like, man, you wrote that because, you want to make money. And you went like, of course. Like, I write a book and I'm going to put myself out there. Of course I want to make a few bucks. Like, I'm not lying to you over that. Like, that's exactly what it was. But me throwing up on paper was me throwing up on paper. It was getting it out of me. Yeah. And how does it help people? So I didn't realize it was really going to help people. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can make some money off of this and tell the story, like I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm not ashamed by it. I think it's going to help people. So here we go. Then I took the approach of write it, dummy, like finish it. Yeah. Like you've done this before with poems. Like you, I've written things. I kept everything kind of tucked away.
Yeah.
And I was tired of doing that. So then I started to organize the thoughts and put it together. I started to pass it around the people and just say, hey, what are your thoughts? Just give me some feedback. I just need some honest feedback. If it sucks, it sucks. You're not going to stop me from doing it anyway. But if you told me it sucks, at least I can look back and be like, hey, that person told me it sucks.
Yeah, right.
Like, hey, they were right. Right. So I put it out in January of 2020. Obviously, only a couple months later, we had everything happen. But like, I didn't have a publicist. I didn't have a publisher. I self-published the book. So I had to learn how to publish the book. I had to learn what comes with that. I had to learn all these things that I never knew. I was on the phones with Barnes and Noble. Please let me do some book shows. Would you give me the opportunity? And they were like, we don't even know you. I'm like, trust me, you'll have a great time. Well, here's the deal. With Barnes and Noble, I was selling the most books that they had from people who came in to sit down and sell the book. So every time I showed up at a Barnes and Noble, I sold 9 or 10 copies, which people were like, well, that's just not enough. It's nothing. Guess what? That's 10 copies more than any other author who came in and sold. And I am a nobody.
Yeah.
I'm not Stephen King sitting down saying I've got a new novel and people are lining up out the doors. You know what I did? I did my own damn marketing. Exactly. I talked to people. I responded. I pushed the book out there. And you know what else? I actually wrote something that was good. People wanted to read it. Yeah, that's part of the equation. Exactly. You got to have something that's good. Okay.
You have to have value. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I put it out there, and then COVID hit. And then that's when my father was really pushing me, like really, he's like, you should do this, man. Look, I'm not telling you what to do, but I feel you should, because like, I'd like to listen to it. Right. Like that was like, he would have his own selfish things. Like he would like to listen to it. And he would go off on people. And then everything with my father. So I just carried it from there. And now what I do is I just drip that book, right? The promotions for the book, across my social media, out there for people. It's out there for people. Like, what else am I going to do? Someone wants to pick it up. That's fine. But I've taken it where I'm going to build a TV show out of it, because of the way the book goes. And so I'll let you probe me for the questions, but there's tons of information in that book.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree the same way. Like I self-published all of mine too. And it was such a learning process. Oh my gosh. And you just like, you thought you've crossed all your I's and your T's. And then it's like, nope, there's a capital letter missing or something, not necessary.
Capital letter. How many profiles, for God's sake?
Oh my gosh.
Like, I got to go to this profile, that profile here.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And marketing. Yeah. We had to do the same thing. Had to set up Facebook pages ahead of time. Had to grow an audience ahead of time. How to, I think we can both do a how-to podcast of both authoring and podcasting. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's incredible. I'm excited. So you're gonna have a move or a TV show made of the book.
Well, we're looking, because the book goes from, when I was real young, right? So everyone thought I was born with a heart problem, and I wasn't. Okay. I guess it came from strep throat or rheumatic fever. As you get older, they start to find these things out, right? I wasn't technically, quote unquote, born with it. It was something that happened. And I then had a blood disease. I always had the heart issue. Then I started playing hockey. Well, in between that mix, there was family members that weren't of the immediate family that, we would go visit and stuff. And then it, weird stuff happened, right? Like I was kind of mixed up in it. And I just didn't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I say this to everybody. It's why I wrote the book, was like, hey, if something like that happens to you, just talk to somebody. Like, and if you don't feel comfortable talking to your parents or immediate family, go to somebody else. Like, you need to say it, because I'm going to tell you, the repercussions of trying to hold that in is a lot of confusion and self-worth questions that you shouldn't deal with, because it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
And that's the message I want to get to everybody. This is not your fault. Like, you need go have that conversation. Yes. And then I used hockey as a shield. I used it as a way to get better. So I was like obsessed. I just went like working out all the time, going and doing all the stuff, getting as good as hockey as I possibly can, be as solid as I can, be this, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Well, that career was taken, partially because I had a terrible attitude, never heard the word no forever. But I also had open heart surgery.
Yeah.
And
how old were you when you had that?
I was 20. Wow. And I was given less than 48 hours to live.
Oh,
so,
my goodness.
there went everything I had worked on and saved my life. right?
Yeah.
Like the way I viewed it. So my brain was this jumbled mess. But the entire time, I was just worried about trying to make people laugh. And I wrote this
Mhm.
quote up on the whiteboard. I'm sitting there, and they found out I had this blood disease, and we're getting ready, and I had to have 6 weeks of bed rest. But before I left the hospital, I wrote this quote, and it said, "It's hard to give up simple things, but simple to give up when things get hard."
Mhm.
And I now have that. I have that tattooed across my chest because I always
Oh.
wanted a reminder. But it was a memory. I remember sitting there, right? And we talked about this when you came on mine. I've always had this knack to know this is going to stay around or this is not, right? Or
Yeah.
this is a good thing. I could pick a video game. If you tell me a video game is going to come out, I can pick it, look through what it's about, and be like, it's going to have a lot of hype, but people aren't going to be that happy with it, right? Because
Mhm.
I understand the marketing and I've been in the video game spot. So
Yeah.
that's the things that helped change my life. Anyway, we go through the surgery, we get to the surgery, and my valve explodes while, before I even get into the surgery, like while
Oh
I'm
my
talking to my parents, getting
goodness.
ready. So it's kind of like this very dramatic rush them in, do all
Was
this,
it like
blah,
a
blah,
heart
blah.
attack or what? How? What
Yeah, well,
can you
I guess
describe?
it
Like what
was.
happened?
So what happened was I had woken up on the first of January 1st of 2004, and my finger was 3 times the size and purple and black, and I
Oh.
had no idea. And what we found out was endocarditis ate my mitral valve, and it ate the pieces of my mitral valve to the point of where it was going in my finger, my toes, and behind. So I was hemorrhaging in my finger, my
Oh my
toes, and behind my
goodness.
eyes. So that's why I got less than 48 hours, because it was already starting up towards my brain.
Wow.
So they had to pump me with all this medication
Yeah.
and all this stuff. And they were saying basically like, this is really potent crap. So like, we can't guarantee anything. And I laughed. When
Yeah.
people say like, you're nuts. Like, no, no, I laughed like the Joker because I'm 20 years old. I'm
Yeah.
given less than 48 hours. I'm staring at family. What the F do you want me to do? Right?
Yeah.
Like brain went into like crisis mode. So all I could do was try to make people laugh. So I
Yeah.
did. And I just continued to do that. I used, shows. I used comedy skits that, other people did. I just talk with people like, and that's where I learned the power of engagement and the power of positivity in that sense of I was helping other people in the hospitals because I was making them laugh.
Yeah.
Right. And in turn, that was helping me. So like it was
Yeah.
a double entendre, right?
Symbiotic.
It
Yeah.
was a full circle, effect. And then yeah, then it just went crazy, man. Then it was like the Superman complex in sense. Like I felt like I couldn't been touched because now I survived all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then but I was so internally miserable from
Mm.
everything, and I had no idea. I had no idea. Had to go through the addiction thing. Went through rehab, and the stories even just with that of finding out who I was, where I was, why, type of thing
Yeah.
was really cool. And then it was like, I don't want kids. I never want kids. I don't want to be this. I don't want them to be like me. And then I have
Yeah.
two, right? So it's like, why, what's happening, right? So
Contradictions. Yeah.
yeah, and being able to deal with and I can go into the story, I can do all the stuff, but first I'll just say this. I'm grateful what happened in my life because it made me who I am and I don't regret it. Do I wish there was changes and things like, oh, what would you like? People always say, what would you like to go back? I want to go back to when I was 8. If I could rewrite and change things, put me back at 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And then it's different. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, man, I wouldn't be impacting people's lives if it wasn't. And I firmly
Exactly.
believe, and people believe this, and I'm not like, oh, super religious, go scream off the mountains. What I'll say is this. I firmly believe that some people get some real heavy crap dumped on them because they can handle it, but they're
Yeah.
a beacon for other people. And I know
Yeah.
that people don't want to see that, but listen, when you've had the story that I've had, I'm going to find the positive outlook and say, I'm helping people with that story as opposed to wanting to go jump off a bridge because
Yeah.
most people can't take it. I am trying to turn that to a positive for other people.
And that's really important message. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think it's even this week that it is. So I think that it's really important that we as a society just realize that everybody has some type of, a mental I don't know, challenge, if you will. There's somewhere somebody, anxiety, depression, addictions, like we were talking about, autism, dyslexia. There's always something going on, MS. There's a lot of things that we don't look at, that we don't give grace or credit to, of the people that, struggle every day with invisible diseases that we can't see, or invisible disorders. So yeah, I think that that's just, talk about it. It is so important to let people know that there is a place where they can feel safe and supported. And, whether it's talking to you or talking to me, please, like, I get it. I've been through, just because we didn't discuss my past, like, I've been through some ringers too, that have made me who I am today. And yes, would I have changed, like, in the moment? Of course you want to have changed it, but when you look back at it in hindsight, wow, like, I wouldn't be who I am today had I had not struggled and gone through all of those things and overcame all of them.
Well, yeah, we talked about this. Like, stop putting people in a box and labeling them one way, because that's not necessarily the way that they're going to be. Like, I'm saying this as a joke. So for your listeners, like, this is partially a joke, but the story itself will ring very true. I mean, they used to think people were nuts, right? Back in the day, right? Pirates, everything. They had syphilis.
Yeah.
And nobody knew.
Yeah.
So they're like, why is this guy going crazy? Right? So, like, the awareness and being able to understand why people are going in that direction would be extremely helpful, as opposed to just saying that they're crazy, give them pills, go over there. Like, why can't we figure it out? Right? Like, if electronics are ruining brain patterns of our children, then as a society, maybe we turn around and say, hey, they don't use them till this age, right? So the education and the information of where we're going with it, it's not necessarily like about being woke. That's the other thing. News, if you're just listening to senseless news throughout the day, please stop.
Right? Because please. Agreed.
Because you're getting this mix mosh of pontification, man. Like, right after they say something, an ad comes up that they just agreed to pay for. Like, and if that doesn't hit you where you say, why did that happen? Right? If you're not thinking that way, you're part of the problem. Like, you could be mad at me for all you want, but I'm going to say it. You're part of the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I look at people and I say, like, why can't you dig a little deeper? I'm not talking, look, there's rabbit holes. And guess what? There's rest stops at those rabbit holes. So you can take a break.
Yes.
Like, nobody's telling you have to just completely fall.
Yeah.
Just go and look a little bit past.
Just learn a little.
By somebody who's making $5 million a year, and the sponsorships are by the people they're supporting.
Yeah.
Have we not understood that yet? Dig.
Yeah.
Please dig.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've always been one to do my own research. I don't take things for face value very often. And not because I am not a trusting person, or I don't trust, the rules or societies, what they say should be, but that I just, I'm the type of person who wants to know the why and the how. Random weird example, when my son was just 4 or 5 years old, I was sent some information about how if I removed gluten and casein out of his body, then he could have different symptoms of autism that would be taken away or whatnot. So of course, as a parent, when you have a nonverbal child, you want to do everything you can to help that child be better able to communicate. And so I didn't just take it for face value, but I started researching it super heavily. And what I found out was that the proteins in both the gluten and the casein were causing inflammation throughout my son's body, in both his neural paths in his brain and in his gut, where that gluten was affecting him. And when we removed those things, speech happened, and his kind of lack of uncontrollable body movements also stopped. And that really helped him out, because his body wasn't fighting this inflammation that was always going on in his system. But like you said, it wasn't just hey, this is a one-stop shop, coming get it and head off with, no, it was much deeper than that. It took me months and months, because why is it helping? Well,
Yes.
because it's taking away the inflammation. But nobody said that to begin with. They just said, take it out of their diet, wave hello, and it's
Same
like,
thing with
no.
CBD and THC,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
and it you could
100%.
be on all sides of the fence with things, but I'll tell people like, not all CBD is good.
Mm-hmm.
CBD doesn't affect everybody the same way, which is why
Exactly.
it's kind of like crypto markets, right? It's
Yeah.
volatile, it's very different, it's per person per basis.
Exactly.
And the same thing with THC.
Yep.
I am not against it, but to think, as somebody, look, I use it because I'm on Coumadin. Like I can't even really take like aspirin the same way without it affecting my body.
Exactly.
So for sleep things and different things like that, I use it, and I'm not hiding it for people. I want people as an awareness, but
Absolutely.
totally different. Do I think you should just be driving down the road with a big old fat blunt, like talking to people, like, walking in Walmart? No, like, no, I don't think that sets the right precedence for kids. I don't think that sets the example that we're trying to set, because it's supposed to be medical, not just social. Now, you're going to use it on a social basis? Go ahead. But there's differences.
Yeah.
It just gets so convoluted that we're not actually looking at what the true purposes are.
No, and I agree. I agree with that 100%. I'm going to probably say this without someone's permission, but somebody came to me and said that they were going through depression and going through sleeping things. And so, they've put me on this depression medication and this sleep medication. And then they come to me a couple weeks later and say, I have these weird bumps in the back of my head. And I said, they're your glands. They're your glands that are full of poison because you're cross-medicating yourself with these medications that are actually harming you. They're not doing you any good. The person was miserable. They were unsure of why this was happening to them. Guess what? A few weeks later, off the meds, completely happy people, completely, the bumps have gone, everything. Do your research. You can do the same thing with medical pills. If you don't understand, if you don't know how your brain works, you don't know how your body works with certain things, then there's a big risk of things going wrong. So
I worked
educate.
in the addiction space.
Yeah.
I've worked in the addiction space. And what I'll tell you is this. And this is not throwing people under the bus. This is my truths of what I've experienced. So I will give it as raw as I possibly can. I've known people in the recovery businesses that want to go pray at people at meetings and then get them into their facilities. So when you're sitting there telling me like, oh, they've got the best interest in hand, that's a money interest, man.
Seriously.
So you need to look at that. Number two, why is it always you just got a magical pill? Like if there was magical pills, why would you need to continue taking the pills?
Where's the magical like weight loss pill, right? Where's the magical
nothing?
Everybody.
Look,
no, there's no magical.
If you haven't realized this in life, nothing happens like this. And even the people that they tell you, oh, this person made it overnight. Journey A to B is never like that. And you don't have those people anymore. It's just people you never heard of that have been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
And now they've come up, right?
Exactly.
And the other part is, when I worked in this industry and I would see like the reasons why insurances would cover and not, guys, we got a real significant issue in this country because you can't get help unless you're dying.
Yeah.
Like that's for insurances for people. So you want to talk about, you want to curb a pandemic, but you've had doctors that because they're prescribing you this medication A, they get a new BMW while you get a new addictive habit. You've got doctors that are giving you a pill to tell you to fix you, but now you're going to need a special surgery, which is going to pay that hospital again because your stomach is going to be in knots. So pardon me if I've gone through these before and I'm skeptical. I was blessed enough, regardless of the problems and the issues I had good doctors.
Yeah.
And those doctors, I was never on ADD medication. Yeah. I was never on other medications. Never in my life.
Yeah.
Only until I had the heart surgery, and then I self-medicated. Why? Because I was so messed up from everything. I had no idea how to handle it. And I just shut down from everything. And that's why I tell people, open your mouth. So this is not like, oh, doctor saved me. Because you know what they want to do? Put them on this. They put me on a depressant. You know what it's like? I laugh at them. Go ahead. I had a doctor and I said, I really want to fix this ADD thing. This was after I was in California. This was about 8 8 years ago. And I go into this office and I'm doing an ADD test. And the guy goes, "Oh, I already know you are." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I know I am, right? Like, I know
Yeah.
what's going on here. I
Yeah.
already know." So we sit down, we do the test. And he's like, "Dude, you're like a 12 out of 10. You know that, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I don't do anything half-assed, bro. I do it full. Like, if I'm
Yeah.
gonna be messed up, I'm fully messed up, man.
Oh,
Right?
I
Like, we're
love
going
it.
for it." So we made him laugh. We had some laughs. And he goes, "Try this." He goes, I really don't know how it's gonna be, with your art, but if you really want something, this is what it was." And I told him I didn't want to do, pot and other things. Anyway,
Yeah.
puts me on it. The problem is I can't stay on them because that kind of medication will essentially could make my heart explode.
Ugh.
So it's like, okay, well, I can't really take that. Then they go and they're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, well, you should take this." And then I'm like, "I'm not taking that, man." So I said, "Give me a natural option."
Yeah.
So they gave me one natural option. I'm like, "It's really not working, man. I don't see it." And I just told the doctor, I'm like, "You know what? Just like, here, forget it." And
Yeah.
I went and I did my research. And that's how I found like CBDs and THC
Yeah.
and
What
different
about like
ways.
St. John's wort? Have you tried that?
No, I actually didn't go that route. I actually went the other route because I wanted to like sleep. But now here's what happens. I want to tell everybody, guys, you get tired of that, right? Like
Mhm.
there has to be other options. That can't only be the option, right? Because like I don't want to just go smoke weed all day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to do it's not for me anymore. That was fun a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing like I want the energy. That zaps the energy, right? Like so these are things I'm trying to tell people where they think it's fun and they promote it like this is the way it should be, but you're going to lack somewhere else. And it's always
Yes.
moderation. Here's the secret of everything in life: moderation. A
100%.
healthy moderation for you, not your neighbor. And
Yeah.
then you'll be happy.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, right? Yes, the neighbor has the greenest lawn on the earth, but it's not the same. It's
I like
just
making
not
the
the
mistakes.
same.
I make the mistakes and then talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay, right? Like eventually my 9 lives will end, right? And that's what'll happen because it happens for everybody.
Yeah.
But we look at it as if we're not talking about it and you're just taking what they tell you, face value,
Yeah.
you're going to be miserable, man, because it's not going to work that way. And I'm just here to tell you, for all the people like, "Oh, you live in California, it's got to be." I will tell you this: the delivery services are awesome, but you got to be really careful, man, because we're sending a message to people that like, hey, this is just free and willy-nilly, and you think that that's okay, but you're not doing what's best for you. Like,
Mhm.
we need better doctors. Sorry, but we need better doctors.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to really focus on how the why and the how. Like, let's get to the root of things. Let's not, just a really crazy weird example. I threw my knee out a few years ago. In fact, it was on, I think, around March of last year. We had huge earthquakes in Utah and Salt Lake City. And on one of the aftershocks, I completely like twisted and threw my knee out. So I, went to the orthopedic, here's this inflammatory pill, here's this blah, blah, blah. It wasn't, and I used to be a massage therapist, like I had told you before. And so it was in my own brain that I was like, no, what is wrong? How can I fix it? What happened? Why? So I went through about 50 physical therapy videos on YouTube until I found the exact one that said, hey, have you had flat feet over the last 5 years or so? And here I've been a stay-at-home mom, taking my shoes off. My foot has my arch has fallen and my knees have curved. And so now I'm like, oh my gosh, like my tensegrity is off in my body. And I fixed it on my own. I didn't take the pills. I didn't wear the whatever they said to. I just went and I did the right exercises to fix my own body. It's so possible, right?
I do it now with my ankle. I got so tired. I had busted my ankle and I had to threaten the doctor's office to give me a boot.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, please don't give me a pill.
They kept me for 3 months. They're like, "Oh, check back in a couple of weeks." Like, my ankle's not healing the right way, you morons. You know what I mean? Like, so this is what, and honestly, for people out there, stand up for yourself.
Yes.
You're your own advocate. And, my wife had told me this for a long time. And, she's very mild-mannered. She's actually getting a lot more rough. you know, the longer that we're together. So I have damaged the very nice woman that she is and was because now she is cold-hearted.
Oh, you
like
just
me.
toughened her up a little.
I toughened her up. So now, but she used to tell me all the time,
Great.
you know, I don't know how to, you know, will you call them? Right. So she
Yeah.
uses me as like the defense line.
Yeah.
But you know, what I did was I turned around and I called up my doctor and I'm like, look, you guys are all worried about whether or not I get my blood taken to check my blood. But every single time I do it, I'm within the best ranges possible for my blood, because you know why? I've been doing this 18 years. Why don't you stop trying to change my thinking on something I've been doing for 18 years that has been working and focus on my damn ankle.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Because they always like to put, well, you didn't go get your blood checked. Yeah. Well, you waited 4 months for me to actually go to a podiatrist.
Yeah.
You really want to have that argument right now? You know, so, you know, those were the things that, you know, that I went into, and I would say that. And then eventually they're like, oh no, let's send you over to the podiatrist. So we go to the podiatrist. Oh yeah. It's right in this part that you said that it was. Gee, I wonder why. I played hockey. I played sports. I told you this. I understand. Right. Like, so I just, once again, there is so much that people hide behind that they don't get the information from.
Yeah.
And people like us or myself or others who want to sit there and yell, we get called conspiracy theorists. We get called mean.
Extra.
You know, you're over the top.
Yeah.
No, man. Like, if I tell you this, and this was your kid, it's not going to affect you until it's in your backyard.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this, even on my podcast, everything. It doesn't affect you till it's your backyard. I'll use the worst example possible. You'll say, kidnapping's bad. It's really bad. Well, didn't happen here, so I'm not worried about it. But then your kid, it happens to your kid, and now you are the staunchest advocate for this because it happened in your backyard. So I'm just trying to educate people and saying, if it happens in your backyard, are you going to be the person who just starts screaming?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be starting to help people in between going,
this could happen. Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's so true. You know, I think with our son is, his autism definitely affects his social abilities. And so he, like we had talked about earlier, has that sense, the lack of judgment and the lack of safety, which, you know, it's twofold, right? The lack of safety is scary. And it's really, you don't know what to do with him when you have emergency things happen. And he's like, let's play a song, you know, and those things aren't affecting him the same way. And it's hard. It's chaotic. At the same time, can you imagine walking through life without judging yourself, without having judgment of others or yourself? Like, how beautiful is that? How amazing of an ability would that be, to just be yourself all the time with no sorries about it. Right.
Yeah. But we're human, right? So, look, I believe in the Constitution of the United States, and that's not just because I do news podcasts, I interview celebrities, I do everything. I do sports podcasts. I take everything that I consume as a human being, and I present that in a podcast. Let me just bring this point. The one way we've always learned since the dawn of time is through telling stories. Before we had anything, go look at the pyramids. Go look before even if you are Catholic, I grew up Catholic. There was stuff written on tablets. Oh, we got a visitor.
Hello, visitor. DJ.
What's up, buddy?
DJ, say hello. This is Anthony. Say hello, Anthony.
What's going on, buddy?
Are you just waking up?
Good.
Yeah, you heard your name being talked about. You always say goodbye? Say bye, Anthony.
He's like, nah, I got things to do.
I know.
No.
Yeah. Autism doesn't stop for podcast recording. So we just roll with the punches.
It doesn't. Yeah, that does not matter. That's actually awesome. I really hope that you keep that in.
We do.
I think we have learned ever since the beginning of time by telling stories, and then people learn new skills by the stories that they heard, or they expanded upon that because of the stories that they heard. So maybe it's like, okay, I heard this story. I don't want to be that way, so let me find this different way. And we're human. We are born to judge others. But look at Bill of Rights. Look at the Constitution. It is freedom for everyone. We didn't say it's freedom for this person and not this person. And if you have Asperger's, you cannot have freedom the same way as somebody else. So
thank you.
To not to not have that freedom, that's manufactured. And that's
Yeah.
going to take, I firmly believe that we will lose 4 to 6% of total humans across the world that just never buy into it because they are so far gone. There is no talking to them. They are just going to believe
So
what they
true.
believe for whatever else. And if you haven't noticed, the common number is usually 30%, right? Whether you believe in election integrity, whether you believe in vaccinations, whatever it is, have you not noticed 30% is a good gauge that you can tell whether something's close or not, right?
Mhm.
30% of people just aren't going to do it. Maybe they could be swayed, right? And they want you to think all the time that it's always 80, 70, 80, 90% of things. I just want people to understand nothing is absolute. Nothing is forever. So when they start talking about these things, whether it's autism, whether it's schoolwork, whether it's belief systems, I don't care. Always take 30% off the top.
Yeah.
And you're
that's
closer
really-
to a real number, right? Because think about it. They always come at you.
Yeah.
There's 3 sides to the story. There's your side, there's their side, then there's the actual facts and the truth, which everyone cherry picks onto their side of the aisle. And that goes with medical, that goes with politics, that goes with sports, that goes with fights, that
Yeah.
goes with family life, that goes with media. So that's what I try to tell people at Parsing. If I learned anything from being in the game industry and being, having a game design degree and now doing this, is to parse information.
Yeah.
So when you're finding things that you like and make sense, look into it.
Yeah.
And if you find something that's wrong with it, examine it. And you have to make this decision. Is this enough for me to not like them anymore?
Mm.
Yes or no? It's a very simple question.
Yeah.
And when you answer that, and if it's yes, then make your move.
Yeah.
If it is no, move on.
Yeah. So true. That's really great advice too, because I think that so many people get just stuck in the drama turn wheel, right? It's like a washing
Mhm.
machine that never stops, that they just want to keep pointing at things. And it's,
The hamster
doesn't do
wheel.
anything.
The
Yes,
hamster
the
wheel of
hamster
life.
wheel. That is so true. Oh my gosh, it's been such an intriguing, engaging, amazing conversation with you. You're right. We're going to definitely have to do this again because I think that there's too many topics that we could discuss in detail and for a long amount of time. The Independent Mouth podcast, Anthony Williams, go visit him, check it out, and really listen to the facts of things, and get his side of the story, and you'll love that. Thank you so much for being here today, Anthony.
Thank you very much. And like I said, anybody wants to listen to the podcast, anybody wants to look for the book, you can just go real simple. Go to theindependentmouth.com. If you type the Independent Mouth in Google, DuckDuckGo, I don't care what browser you use. I'm the only thing that pops up.
There you go.
So I got lucky, right?
Yeah.
Like I got, and then found it. I'm like, all right, now we're going to keep it, right? We got great placement. Here we go. Everything is there.
Exactly.
You want interviews with celebrities. You want sports. You want news and entertainment. You want to feel like you're just chopping it up with one of your friends, and you can yell at me if you want. I'm not going to be offended. I encourage it so that everybody gets a chance to speak.
Yeah.
So theindependentmouth.com is where you can find everything.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for sharing all of this wonderful information with us.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and you're doing awesome.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, hopefully when my podcast is all grown up someday. Definitely. Great. Nice having you on today. Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks again. See you soon.
Kind of guy that keeps you warm at night when you are cold. I'll grab some blankets from my bed, wrap them around your chest, now pull you close. We'll flip some channels to find out there's nothing on right now to ease your mind. Sit back, relax, there is no rush, no need to speed things up. all we have is time to think about the future, forget about the past. Time to figure out a way to make this moment last. To make this moment last. To make this moment last. So let's make this the kind of love that we've been dreaming of when we sleep at night. We'll get a little house to live in, have a couple kids, and we'll sleep tight. Cause baby, all we really need are just a couple things to stay alive. And everything else in between, just trust my heart, you'll see. We're slowly coming. Time to think about the future, forget about the past. Time to figure out a way to make this moment last. To make this moment last. To make this moment last. Sunrises, sunsets, I won't let you forget that I need you. Spring comes as spring goes, forever you will know that I love you. Sunrises, sunsets, I won't let you forget that I need you. Spring comes as spring goes, forever you will know that I love you.